ADHD and eating disorders. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a mental disorder that often affects children but can also affect adults. It includes not being able to pay attention, being too active, and acting on impulses. A child can be mostly unfocused or mostly hyperactive and impulsive, or they can have a mix of these two traits. One more habit or behavior that can be linked to ADHD is being picky about what they eat. In a study, different ways of eating were looked at, and mental tests were also done. They found that picky eating, which is another name for selective eating, is linked to mental disorders. Explaining that the disorder is worse the more dangerous the ADHD eating disorder is. Also, being picky about what you eat has been linked to other mental problems like anxiety and depression. Children can be picky eaters in different ways, and they may be afraid to eat in a restaurant instead of at home. This is a common problem, especially for kids with ADHD. This can make things very hard for the parents. A typical picky eater would probably put anything green on their plate on the side and keep eating the rest. But it can be hard for kids with ADHD. When a child with ADHD can't eat green foods, even a small amount of something they can't stand can make them hyperactive, impulsive, unable to sleep, or even angry. This could make the child's ADHD symptoms worse for a few days, because kids with ADHD are often very sensitive to everything. Studies have also shown that a child with ADHD is less likely to eat healthy foods like vegetables and fish, and more likely to choose sugary foods instead. The link between ADHD and overeating. We live in a culture where high-calorie foods are always around to tempt us. This can be hard for people who eat more because of what's going on around them than because they're hungry. Like people with disordered eating, people with ADHD often overeat to calm themselves down when they are bored, stressed, or have strong feelings. People with ADHD may forget to eat and then eat a lot of food all at once. They may also have trouble making plans and shopping ahead of time, which can lead to eating on the spot and out of control. A national survey of parents in 2016 found that 6 out of 10 kids with ADHD also had another mental, emotional, or behavioral disorder. The focus of research is on how ADHD and overeating in teens and adults are linked. Researchers at the Child Study Center at New York University's Langone Medical Center recently did a study. They found that men who were diagnosed with ADHD as children were twice as likely to be overweight 33 years later than men who were not diagnosed with ADHD. Researchers think that adults with ADHD are more likely to be overweight because they can't control their impulses and aren't good at planning, which makes them make bad food choices and eat at odd times. With information like this, it's very important that children and teens with ADHD learn how to eat well so they don't start eating in a disordered way. Do ADHD kids have eating problems? Picky eating is a common trait in young children, but it may be even more common in children with ADHD. Also, some kids with ADHD may not eat for hours at a time. What do kids with ADHD need to eat? Foods that are high in protein, like lean beef, pork, chicken, fish, eggs, beans, nuts, soy, and low-fat dairy products, may help ADHD symptoms. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that help brain cells talk to each other. The ADHD eating habits of a person needs protein-rich foods to make these chemicals. Neurotransmitters that wake up the brain are made when a child eats protein for breakfast. Protein also keeps blood sugar from spiking, which makes people more hyperactive. The most important thing to do is to cut down on the amount of sugar in the diet of a person with ADHD. If you or your child eats simple processed carbs like white bread, waffles, or white rice, it's almost the same as giving them sugar. They can make you angry, stressed, and unable to pay attention. Instead, serve breakfasts and lunches that are high in protein, complex carbs, and fiber to help people focus and act better. Does ADHD make you not want to eat? If your child has ADHD and is taking medicine for it, you may notice that he or she isn't as hungry as usual. This is a common scenario for kids with ADHD and food aversion. Does ADHD make you binge eat? A recent study found that some people with ADHD and binge eating. This is thought to be caused by a stronger response in the brain's reward system. Food and non-food pictures were shown to people in the study who had either high or low levels of ADHD symptoms and a history of binge eating. When people with a lot of ADHD symptoms looked at pictures of food, their brains worked more than when they didn't. The researchers came to the conclusion that this increased brain response may be one reason why people with ADHD are more likely to also have a binge eating disorder. The study also looked at how well people could control their impulses. The study has found that the results were the same for people with low or high levels of ADHD symptoms. This led the researchers to think that impulsivity is not the main reason why people with ADHD binge eat, as was thought before. What foods should kids with ADHD stay away from? Milk, chocolate, soy, wheat, eggs, beans, corn, tomatoes, grapes, and oranges are all common foods that can make ADHD worse. If you think your child's ADHD symptoms might be caused by a food sensitivity, talk to your ADHD dietitian or doctor about putting your child on an elimination diet.